Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to have with me once again Auryn Bebek, the co-founder and executive chairman of Auryn Resources. You know, it's always good to talk to and learn from successful people, and so it's always good to talk to Auryn because he is among the most successful mine exploration executives in North America, starting with a project operated now by Asanko Gold. Well, that company is ramping up to 450,000 ounces of annual gold production, so quite a story there. But then Auryn and his partner, Sean Wallace, next engaged in the discovery of another gold deposit, this one in Mexico, which was sold off to Agnico Eagle for a nice sum of money and made the shareholders a lot of money in a bad market, I might add. It was one of the few things that made money for me a couple of years back. But now I think perhaps the best story yet to come from the Bebek and Wallace team is in the form of Auryn Resources. It's a company that, of course, it's a sponsor to this show. It's a company that I own personally. It's one of my two top holdings personally. It is one of my favorite picks in my newsletter for a host of reasons that I think will become very clear to you as we talk to Auryn. So welcome, Auryn. I'm so glad that you could join me today.
Thank you very much for having me back, Jay. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you know, in a previous interview, you talked about the world-class exploration potential for your Committee Bay project in Nunavut, and I really do want to focus on that today. But in the meantime, I'd like to ask you about several acquisitions that you've made, really exciting targets, I think, in Canada as well as in Peru. Starting with Homestake Ridge, you know, this is a project that Agnico Eagle had committed, I think, $20 to $25 million, something like that, to spend and explore on, and they're clearly, their geologists clearly saw potential there. But then I believe they dropped out of the project in part because of the price of gold, and they had other projects they had to take their resources, devote those resources to developing other mining projects that they had. But what did you see and what did your team see in the Homestake Ridge project that really turned you on and had you acquire that prospect?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, to the comments you made, outside of doing the work in Committee Bay, we've been extremely busy with the acquisition of Homestake and one more project which we can talk about later in Peru called Baños del Indio. But Homestake, to us, when we first approached it, we looked at it at around 1 million ounces of 9 grams gold equivalent per ton, and that's an incredible grade for any gold deposit in the world. And I think about 80 or 85% of that is gold, and the equivalent number, which is significant. We looked at it and we thought, okay, well, this is an asset that's close to home. It's in an area that seems very permeable that you could build a mine, and what kind of profitability exists around that deposit. And it certainly showed to have a lot of brownfields exploration for us. And for your viewers, brownfields just mean stuff where you're not speculating as much. You see obvious extensions of mineralization that could exist. And so for us, that the big question was, what's it worth today, and does it get bigger? And one of our directors, Keith Minty, had actually built 2 mines in that area of British Columbia, and so he was very familiar with costs and capex and how these things could come together. And, I won't repeat the numbers because we'd have to do a formal report, but it would be an extremely low cost capex, a very quick payback. And as is, all you would really have to do is some infill drilling and the feasibility work and apply for permits. And you could make this deposit work, and it would be very profitable for a company of any size. But that wasn't the biggest appeal that came to us. That was the decision. Yes, we're going to go forward with it. We tested the metallurgy. We made sure all of the due diligence was sound. Recently, we actually had a chance to get up to site to look at it, and I got a report from the geologists who went, and they were more impressed with the project than we were when we first learned of it and did the acquisition. What really impressed them was the brownfields, the conservative expansion of resource, and this is following up on work that was done prior to us. Agnico did some great work when they were there in 2014, and it kind of left some, to us, really low-hanging fruit for us to go expand that high-grade mineralization. And second from that, while they were walking the ground, they started to find huge structures that continued off of the mineralization that had no work done on them previously, and highly mineralized. Visually they look like they're highly mineralized or highly altered. And then they found some areas that had received a tremendous amount of surface sampling, multi-gram gold, and no exploration drill holes done in those. And thirdly, there's a major SK Creek trend, the one that hosts the SK Creek deposit, which is one of the richest deposits in the world. It comes through the eastern side of the property, and there's no drill holes in it, and there's a major conduct underneath it. So when we got a chance to get to site and assess it technically, beyond the basic due diligence, to spend real time there, it screams to us value as is. It would underpin the value of our company, and it is something that is near to production if you want to go that route. But our game plan with Homestake is going to be to make it much bigger before we go and start to talk about building a mine or consider selling the asset, just because we think there's a very low risk to make that deposit a lot bigger. And I have to echo the grade, 9 grams gold equivalent. That will survive in almost any gold market that we could possibly see. But in the one we're headed towards, it will be one of the most profitable deposits that we can see out there.
You also have some silver there as well. It's gold and silver, right?
Yes, Jay, there is gold and silver there. There's two of the best metals in the precious metal sense, and it makes for an interesting concentrate that what we've learned about the project is it'd be a very high valued concentrate because it does work in that sense. And there's been quite a bit of studies done before us, but you're looking at really profitable rock. You're going to look at a very significant amount of gold and a decent amount of silver, which I think is extremely appealing going in towards this better precious metals market that we're headed towards.
Yeah, this Homestake Ridge, I believe, is located in what is known as the Golden Triangle of British Columbia. Is that right?
Yes, I alluded to SK Creek earlier.
Sure.
The Golden Triangle is referred to that in BC. I'm sure you've followed it for years. It's one of the richest places for mineralization and ounces being discovered. I believe Pretium, SK Creek itself, and some other Seabridge. Some big discoveries have been made there. There's a huge amount of resource endowment. Getting into the Golden Triangle is every junior's dream out of Vancouver, and finding a major discovery there because that's where some of the biggest ones in the entire world have been found. However, getting into one that has 1 million ounces of 9 grams equivalent to start, and being able to apply our technical team, the depth of our technical team on that project. And then, next year we'll drill probably at the very least 10,000 meters. A lot of that will be extensions of resource and major new discovery type of holes. It's going to be something that really gives us value and gives our shareholders value. That alone could justify Auryn as a company, as a great investment today as is. Just that asset alone. That's how good we think it is.
Can you explore this during the wintertime, or is this going to be mostly a summer project to start with?
You know what? It's going to be summer, but it's a bit earlier summer. It'll go from May through October. Mm-hmm. So May, June, July, August, September, October. That's a pretty decent season that you get on it. And with these northern projects, it's important for, as much as it's tough to not drill in the wintertime or year round, it's also a blessing because you can take a really smart technical team and they can actually digest and properly assess what's happening, with the model and the structures and which way they're going, and they can process their data. So you'll see that theme across Committee Bay. Each year will get better than the year before as we work on those projects. But in the meantime, we do have Peru, which is just about to get started, and Peru will go year-round. However, we probably will take a break on Peru in the summertime while we're drilling the northern assets to do our processing of the Peru discoveries or our drilling that we do in that time.
Well, it's certainly a big plus for me as an investor in your company is to see news flow that now can come around the whole year. We had to sort of wait now for the drill results to come out of Committee Bay up in Nunavut. Again, I want to ask you about that, but talk to us a little bit about what you picked up in Peru. I think there's a Baños del Indio property. Is that the one that you're most focused on?
Well, you know what? We're going to focus on 3 of them at the same time, but they all have different targets, different styles. The Baños del Indio acquisition was something we worked on for about 13 months. It was something that's been coveted by one of our directors, Antonio Ribas, who was formerly the chief exploration geologist of Newmont. Since 1995, when he was with Placer, he was coveting this target. It's the largest untested alteration system, in the Andes, or one of them. And what's really important about it, and it's quite clear in our presentation on our website, Huicoyo, which we acquired earlier in the year, is south of Baños by about 10 or 15 kilometers. And it's got a major north-south structure going through it, which continues right through Baños. And it's obviously gold-bearing because there's previous drilling and gold intercepts in Huicoyo, and there's really good intercepts there. The theme of the north-south structure in Peru is critical. From Michael Henriksen, our chief geologist, who is a structural geologist, he said one of the key elements of Yanacocha, which is over 60 million ounces or was 60 million ounces of gold, was that they had this north-south structure which carried the fluid pathways that hosted all the gold. When you see that coming from Huicoyo right through Baños, and Baños being such a massive alteration system with huge shells of silica, it really gives us that huge target look. It's something that could be, like a La Coipa would be a good analogy. It could have the potential to be 5 to 10 million ounces or beyond that. And, if you find something like that in Peru and stuff, and with, the accessibility and the nearby infrastructure or the infrastructure right to a neighboring property that we have there, it's really something that would certainly get, a lot of respect, and there'd be a lot to monetize there. Baños is earlier stage. There is some minimal work done on it, and we all recognize that, but our understanding of Peru, the back engineering of Yanacocha from a structural perspective that our geologists have done, as well as the gentleman who was credited with the discovery of Yanacocha to be a gold deposit versus a silver deposit, Miguel Cardozo, he actually was the one who assembled these properties together for us and with us. We have one other one that I will mention is called Sombrero. If you take a close look at that in our video on our website and you look at the grades and the kilometers long, there's about 20 kilometers of intrusive and limestone contact with, anywhere from 2 grams to 9 grams gold and 2% to 9% copper all over the place on the surface. That's a remarkable asset, and it's also close to a mine called Las Bambas, which sold for about $5.6 billion in the last market, gold market that we had. It's got a shot at being a major skarn discovery in Peru, and so I could argue that each one of these targets are as good as the other for potential to the upside, but some have a little bit more advanced. There's a little bit more work that's been done, and some are a bit earlier stage, which gives us optionality within our Peru portfolio. Some stuff that we drill there is going to be discovery right out the door. It's going to start to get bigger, and other stuff will be that longer shot. And if that longer shot delivers, you're going to have a massive win for shareholders. The stuff that's more advanced, like Huicoyo, that you're going to be stepping out and starting to add some really nice oxide ounces, that's going to give a lot of news and the start of a discovery that could become very meaningful in itself. So, you talk about us becoming newsy. That starts in next week. We're going to have, or the following week, we're going to have a release out that will discuss our entire portfolio. It will talk about our business plan and bring investors around to what to expect over the next 16 months. Ambitiously, and depending on market conditions, we'll conduct ourselves in a very smart sense, but we'd like to start drilling in February in Peru, and we're looking to drill between 50 to 60,000 meters across the entire portfolio in about an 18-month period, if possible sooner. And, there's a few companies out there that have acquired a lot of really good assets, but I think we're different, Jay, in the sense that we're going to drill all of them, and we're going to give our shareholders the opportunity to have not one major world-class discovery, but multiple ones across the portfolio. And so when the news starts, and it pretty much started with us getting onto the TSX today, it should be, very consistent for the next 18 months into what we think is going to be a rising gold market, especially post-February next year. And there'll be a lot of exciting results to come out, not just the remaining holes from Community Bay, but the start of work in Peru as well.
Talk is cheap, Ivan, but you guys back up your talk with your actions and your past success. When I hear you talking about 50 to 60,000 meters of drilling, that is very ambitious for a junior, but you have the ability and the connections, I would say, within the financing community. And one of the things that makes your company and your group and you and Sean's so successful in the past is that you link up very well with all the ingredients that's required to make a winning exploration company. You not only need to have the technology, the technical skills, and you have them in spades with a lot of previous Newmont geologists who know these properties inside and out. but you also have connections on Bay Street and Wall Street and places where people have money and are understanding of this sector, and of course they have gained confidence in you and Sean and your ability to perform and do well, which is one of the reasons that you're one of my top picks. Just one question here. This I think it is Julia Colo that you just talked about. I believe you own 100% of it. Yes, you own 100% of that, right?
Wheeler Coyle. Yeah.
Yes.
We have an option to earn 100% on everything we have in Peru.
Okay.
Each project is an option to earn 100%. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you step by step you go along, and as you're successful, you continue with the program. If for some reason things don't pan out as you expected they would, you have the ability to opt out. But I'm sure your geologists have done a great deal of work before you committed to put in the first a small amount of money to gain to buy the options. So I'm very confident.
Yes. So we've done back-end loaded deals, and this just comes from Sean and my experience over time and the opportunity in the market that we're in. Heavier payments are in the back end. They're not very expensive properties, at least to our perspective. These are very, very reasonable costs. Even if you were to buy them out today, you're talking to a junior that between Committee Bay we bought for $18 million, Homestake we bought for $8 million. You're talking about a total of $5 or $7 million in option payments at the end of 5 years. That's the total, with the back end being heavily loaded. It gives us a chance to make discoveries, improve the share price dramatically, and then do financings at higher prices. You touched on something that we're very good at, and that's raising money. And the big reason for our success, and I was listening to you give us a very nice compliment, I appreciate it, but largely has to do with the fact that we're very large investors in our own company, and we treat our company as very, very large investors. That's where we win. So how do you deliver the most for your portfolio, for you as an investor, and for your company as shareholders? You do that by being very prudent with your decisions, raising money in good markets, saving money in bad markets, and creating a team through experience and capitalizing on your reputation and your abilities. And that's something that Sean and I both have done very well here. And I think, we're honored to have the shareholders we have, but for many of them, this is their third success with us. And that's something that makes it a lot easier to understand our business plan. And if you're a financier, do you want to finance a company or a team that keeps winning and getting better, or do you want to finance something new? There's opportunities in both. But for us, this is not our first company. This is not our second one. And both of them have done very well. This is our third. And we've taken the best of what we learned, and we found some incredibly great financiers along the way that can align themselves with ourselves and then go make a company that can deliver significantly for investors. And the last point I'll make, the biggest compliment we've received in the recent conference we went to, Beaver Creek, which some of you may have seen my presentation, but the compliment we've gotten was for the depth of our technical team and their skill set, independent of what we think of it and what we see it's doing. It certainly gets recognized in the world scene in terms of exploration, and it's an absolute honor to work with those guys as well. So putting together that kind of a technical team aligned with our ability to raise money and our desire to monetize things as investors as we are in our company is really our formula that keeps working for us in these companies we built.
All right, Ivan, we haven't even touched on Committee Bay. So with maybe 2 or 3 minutes, give us an overview of Committee Bay. It seemed the market didn't respond terribly positively to some of the drill results that came out the other day, but there's still more to come. But I know this is a huge project. It has tremendous potential.
Sure. Yeah, I think the market's reaction to our news release was deceiving to the success we're having with unlocking the potential in Committee Bay. I'll say that at first most. We announced a partial results. We do have about 30 holes remaining and tons more data we've collected off the belt. What we've seen is, very importantly, on Three Bluffs, we've seen gold at depth. We can go down to 800 meters with gold. And yes, we didn't hit big, huge widths of high grade, but we weren't necessarily targeting that. Before you go and target high grade, you generally relog the core of your deposit and you find the major structures and you go follow them down, you go drill high grade. That's an expensive and a time-consuming process. The fact that we've drilled down and we know now it's worth doing that the pit will come down and then the underground will continue down to 800 meters, it gave us a real solid answer that Three Bluffs will get big on us. Those were very successful holes because they bring the gold down to a much bigger depth. Next year, when we target Three Bluffs, we're going to target grade, and we'll hit the holes the market would have liked to see first time around. That'll be the design there. But more importantly, on this belt, and this is a very important fact that your readers should all understand, is, when we do this till sampling on the surface, it's like soil sampling, but you're doing it on glacial till. You take a sample every 100 meters or so, and you do that across all these targets. The distance that they were able to do this year was pretty much the distance from Vancouver to Toronto. Oh. That's how much was walked in 8 weeks between 85 people that were working on it for 8 weeks. That blew my mind. It blows everyone who's heard about that is just beside themselves. Why be that aggressive? Why do all that reconnaissance work? Why till everything? Well, the result in the market, we'll see it soon, are 6 major targets. And these targets, some of them are defined by high grade, some are defined by arsenic, but these are big targets. And now in total, we have about 9 major targets on the belt. That's a lot. And I'd like to say we've narrowed it down from about 60 targets to 9 targets. 9 that really mean something, that are big. And these 6 new targets will all be drilled next year. Our program this year, everything that we tell you guys about in terms of drilling and work along the belt, it was split between half drilling, which was quite a bit of drilling, but it was exploration drilling. It wasn't extending mineralization. Mm-hmm. It was purely for new discovery, which is riskier. And the other half was split between scanning the rest of the belt and taking boulder samples, till samples, mapping structures, and doing the work, getting things ready, drill ready for the next season. The result of that, for me, is a 14 out of 10 based on 6 new major targets. When the market starts to see the data around these targets and see how pronounced they are, when the corporates start to see it, when everyone in the world starts to see how this is coming together for us, the people in the know that are technically savvy are going to be impressed with the amount of work that was done and the targets that have come out of it. The investors, you have to look at us. The Arctic has got a lot of cover, and it's not easy to go up there, and you're not drilling exposed rock. You're right. Drilling underneath cover. So where is the structure? Every area that we drilled that we thought there'd be gold, there was gold. There just wasn't grade yet. That's the only thing that's missing. We've hit gold, and we can call it smoke. In some parts of the world, that grade makes a mine. But in the north, you need a lot higher grade. We understand that. Next year will be largely a grade-driven, not just gold, but also finding grade-driven program. You can't come up there and hope to find it on the first day. You can take a lot of shots at finding it, and so far we're at 60% of kind of taking those shots, and we haven't gotten anything major that's new yet, except for the good news at Three Bluffs, which will get big on us. But the remaining 30 holes could have it, but I can tell you that there's certainly some very impressive targets along that belt ready for next year. And our confidence in Committee Bay and our patience with it, and we ask investors to think about the big picture here, it's one that we're going to drill 25,000 meters next year. We've ordered the fuel for that already. We've paid for it. It's already up at site. So we're getting ready to drill 25,000 meters. Next year's program will be about 85% drilling and about 15% just covering the last 15% of the belt that we weren't able to get to yet. And that's going to be another major discovery program. But when you see the targets and you see the grade in some of the areas, we're talking up to 8 kilos gold in some areas. It's remarkable. It's something that we continue to lose sleep on. Would we have loved to hit a discovery hole and announce it on Monday? Absolutely. But I still think the stock would have been overshadowed by the $40 downturn in the markets. I think it was a combination of the markets, or maybe even more of the markets, that brought us down, because we put out neutral to positive news. We didn't put out any bad news, and there's still a lot more to come out of Committee Bay while the whole portfolio comes alive for us. So I could give you 100 reasons of why you should own more shares of Auryn, or make sure it's a big cornerstone position in your portfolio. And I could not give you one reason to sell it. Even with the gold market doing what it's doing in the volatility, there's too many things that are going on, and the way we're being aggressive technically, the way we're being aggressive with our ambitious approach to drill 50 to 60,000 meters starting in February, the chances investors are going to have along the way for a major success is uncanny.
Oh, I totally agree with you, which is one of the reasons. Well, it is the reason that Auryn is one of my top picks, one of my 2 top picks. So I want to thank you very much for being with us, Ivan, today. And a most exciting story, and we look forward to talking to you again sometime in the near future.